One of the most saddening but beautiful things I found difficult to come to terms with in Final Fantasy was the idea of finality that would often be portrayed. The idea that during your journey, and particularly at the end, characters may be gone forever, and so too will the story and world you spent hours journeying in. The game, its world, and story have finally finished under very clear terms. This gives the story mystery and an unforeseen allure. You are left to imagine what the outcome will be, and even years after you have played an earlier game, you would often find yourself thinking what if when pondering about the plot. Your experiences in the game become a vivid memory. Like Auron and Tidus in Final Fantasy X, who knew very early on that at the end of their journey, they'll have to leave their world, friends, and loved ones forever. A heavy secret that characters carried with them until it was time to say goodbye in that tear-jerking and tragic scene. Stuff like this has been a recurring thing in Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy endings would always be bittersweet in this way. The stories have been renowned to be tragic, but at the same time uplifting. But the next Final Fantasy game after number 10 saw a massive shift away from this approach, with subpar sequels violating one of the founding principles of the franchise. Some die-hard fans have complained about a reduction in quality relative to the first 6 Final Fantasies that was made by the original development team and founding people. Final Fantasy now is an echo of what it was during the 90s, with big overhauls to the game's design and salient features that, grew up to love. Final Fantasy was originally a collaboration between director Hironobu Sakaguchi and musician Nobuo Uematsu and illustrator Yoshitaka Amano. All of these great minds have left long ago, with Nobuo being the last to leave, no longer scoring music for Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy was Sakaguchi's last attempt to make a game after his previous one was a massive flop, hence the name Final Fantasy, indicating one additional but final attempt to make it. One of the core developmental principles he would abide by was the idea of finality in between Final Fantasy games. In fact, he hated sequels and loved the idea of wiping the slate clean and starting or building a fresh new world with new characters to get attached to and learn about. Starting afresh, being more wise and experienced every time he would undertake this creative task. Today in the gaming world, Hajime Tabata, the current director of Final Fantasy 15, said that he wants Final Fantasy to no longer be seen as a jaded champion of the past. Positive change is welcome, but perhaps they need to revisit and reconsider what made the original Final Fantasies that were made back from the 90s what they are. You'd have to stay true to what made the game great. And for starters, sequels is not one of them. Once the story is done, it is done. A happy ending is not necessarily a good one. Will Final Fantasy still be a jaded champion? Will Final Fantasy 15 truly be the second wind the franchise desperately needs? Time will tell. Oh, and Final Fantasy 8 was better than 7. Sorry. Thank you for watching. If you want more videos like that, be sure to subscribe. If you like that video and you want something similar, be sure to check out the video on the left, which is an in-depth critical analysis of Bioshock 1 and Bioshock Infinite. Similarly, on the right, we also have an in-depth critical analysis and review of Metal Gear Solid 5. It's pretty deep stuff. We hope you enjoy it, and hope to hear from you soon. Thank you. Bye.